a lot of plastic in our clothes, and every time we wash it, the little tiny particle of plastic enter the water system, and it ended up in our own body. For instance, we have the amount of one credit card of plastic that we eat every single week. So every week you eat like a credit card amount of plastic in your body. And I was with scientists the other day that like just saying that they find plastic in the brain.
Camille Étienne is a leading voice in the fight for climate and environmental justice. Born in the French Alps, she spent her early years training in cross-country skiing and biathlons. After moving to Paris, she studied philosophy at La Sorbonne and political science at Sciences Po. Camille is the director of her NGO Before the Storm, which combines scientific expertise, political lobbying, and artistic performance. The NGO works with dancers, musicians, and filmmakers. She authored a book on climate change and the myth of powerlessness and produced a film named Why We Fight. She also helped draft legislation banning forever chemicals in France and is involved in international negotiations on deep sea mining. I'm Candela Yache, and I'm honored to share this conversation with someone who embodies an activism that is as poetic as political. Welcome to a new episode of Oxford Policy Pod. Okay, so hello, how are you?
Hello, this is so nice to do it here. It's very fun.
I'm really happy because I think that I spent a lot of time like deeping in your work for this interview.
I'm sorry for that.
No, I'm really proud about what you are doing, and it's really inspiring. I want to talk a lot of things with you. So to start, I want to know how growing up in French Alps shape your relationship with nature and your relationship with activism.
Well, I guess first I wanna say something is that I'm very always try to like be, how can I say that, dedicate with the idea of déclic. As we said, I don't know what will be in Spanish translation to that, but the moment you wake up and you're like, okay, I'm the chosen one, like I am an environmental activist. And I love to share my story because basically it's just remind from which point I am speaking, from where I'm speaking. But also I'm trying to like be careful on the fact that it does not create the idea that it's a hobby, that environmental activist is because I've been growing up in the nature and so that's my thing, you know? Because it can create either people that will look down on you saying like, this is like some like a Friday afternoon hobby that people have, or it can create also elite idea of like, oh, I will never belong to them, you know, I never had this wake-up call and so I'm just waiting. Because what I want to emphasize that there's enough in the world if you just open your eyes to fight. There's enough injustice all over the place to fight. So I think everyone has a story that is enough to start becoming activist. But for my story then, I grew up, I was so lucky. I honestly so lucky that I grew up in such a wonderful place. It's just near a national park and it's pure gold. I mean, we don't even had like a garden because we were living just near the like inside the forest technically. And I grew up with the idea of the glacier was shaping my family history. My dad is a mountain guide, my brother is a mountain guide, my mom was in the national French team of climbing and snowboarding. Everyone around me, like and especially I remember those pictures. I was looking at my grandmother place where I spent a lot of time. And I saw the same glacier that I was facing every single day, but being way bigger, you know, and having picture from my grandfather facing it. And I was like, am I going to be the first generation to witness this, like the collapse of this landscape? And I think that was something that was in the back of my head. But to be fair, I didn't become first a climate activist. I really was way more involved into justice activism. So my whole thing was about social justice. In France, we had a huge migration wave in Calais, migration camp, and so I was volunteering there. And
how old were you at that moment?
I was turning 18, I guess.
Okay.
And before that, I was doing a lot of work with Amnesty International and stuff like that. I think first was very much this idea of social justice. And I mentioned that because I do link so much, like social justice is very at the core of my work. I don't want to have a reading of environmental issue that is non-political. It is a matter of justice. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I want to know which was your click, because that's I completely agree that we have that moment. I feel identified because I'm an activist also, and I had that moment where I start watching the same reality but with another eyes. And when you wake up, it's impossible to go back.
Yeah, I guess it was it was by default. So I went to that school. All of my family, all of my peers were very focused on doing Nordic ski, and I wanted to, I was in a club, and then we were doing a national competition and so on, and then I get sick. Very stupid, not big sickness, but it's what we called la mononucleose. It's supposed to be the kiss sickness, and so it was the year of the selection to be in the team. And so I really was just last in every single competition. So it was a pure fail this year. And because I realized at the end of the day, I got this sickness that makes you very tired. So not very convenient when you do cross-country ski. But then this year was okay, I'm not going to be doing sport my whole life as a career. So I get to do something else. And so I just jumped into study. But where I come from, no one really wanted to do going to Paris, it was very few people would do that. And so I arrived there. It's supposed to be the best school in France. All of our president have been doing from the school. And it was a very, very selective process because I also it's a dual bachelor with La Sorbonne in philosophy. So we're doing the both school at the same time. And so I remember when I arrived, I was there must be a mistake. Camille Étienne is such a common name in France. There is no way it's actually me, because those people I was in class with knew everything. Some of them come in suit in class, since we were 18, and they were so, they knew all the political people. It was very French elite kind of vibes. And I was I do not belong there. I'm so stupid. And I felt so imposter there. And this is where I realized that the knowledge I had, how to grow food, how to see if the snow, how is the snow, just knowing your natural environment, the ecosystem, that was as valuable as knowing what is the best new museum or who made this painting in the 80s. And I was you know what? Actually, the elite society doesn't recognize that this knowledge is a knowledge, but it's actually a very valuable knowledge. Because what if these people that are going to become president of my country doesn't know how to grow the carrot they're eating? And I'm this is a bit scary to me. So I guess it's here when I realized the disconnection that the elite has with just grounded ecosystem and nature. That freaks me out. That freaks me out completely. And I was okay, I guess I got to speak up. But before speak up, I just went to Finland for a year, and I spent a year at the agriculture school of Finland. And then I just read tons of papers, scientific paper and so on. And then it's just that moment where you're will I wait until I feel legitimate enough, or will I just start screaming because it was too much? And so I just start. Yeah.
Really interesting. I love your path. And as part of your path, you decided to create an NGO. So I want to know why you decided to create Before the Storm.
I guess when I first went back to France after Finland, I was I'm not going to create another thing. This sounds already. And so I just helped doing the scientific communication. So I was helping to make the link between mass media and actual scientists, because I knew both worlds. So I was doing this, and I'm very obsessed with science, and it's like really my thing. I'm always admiring all of these people, so I love to hang out a lot with them. And so I was like, okay, it's what I'm gonna do. It's what I'm good at. Like understand them and be able to make it interesting enough to be outside of just the papers or the lab. And then it kind of blew up. I guess it was during the moment where there were people like Vanessa, there were people like Greta, and you never really know what makes. I think I wasn't special. I just was a good candidate of, oh, we need a young lady in each country, and I guess I started like having a lot of buzz on random moment, and then you don't realize that in the moment. I guess like the first time was when I was invited at the MEDEF. It's like all the CEO coming all together. And there were, I was like, oh, but what if we maybe work less? And because I was like, the resources are limited. And I guess like the idea of progress is actually to free time for people to like enjoy life and do all the stuff and volunteers and so on. And they start like laughing at me so hard. And the journalist it's like, oh my God, this stupid girl. And then, so I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just being humiliated once more. It's fine. Like, I don't care. I was literally like 20 years old girl in front of all these old men in suit that was running like the CAC 40, the CAC 40 companies in France. And when I said that, then I just went back home and I was like with my friend and so on. And then I realized next morning that he was everywhere. Just the fact that those people were laughing, humiliating a young girl that was saying like, hey, maybe there's limit to the resources and we maybe should take that into account. And the next day was like everyone, I was like, whoa, wait, what do I do with all this mic that are now giving to me? Well, this spotlight, I can't just speak for myself. I need to make sure it's bigger than me. It's not about me, to make sure that I hold the door open to make place for other to come in. And so this is where I started like working with many other NGOs and try to say, okay, how we make sure that the people that would have less access to this platform can talk in that space as well.
That's beautiful. You use a lot of art as a way to spread messages, and I want to know which connection do you see between art and activism?
So I guess in what I'm trying to focus on very much, it's like a type of step back in my work, it's to connect. So I was saying most affected people in area, scientists, and committed to science sounds like a very easy thing to do, but in nowadays where university are saying like their budget cut off, where they're fleeing from the state, for instance, to come to Europe, where there's a lot of fake news and disinformation, it's actually a very hard thing to stand by. And so I really committed to, so I really try to have like this very science-based, and this is, I would say, 1/3 of my time is spending time with this expert, and see what is the new scary thing for them, what should we be more representative into the French media and to the French debate. Then another third will be being linked to lobbying. I do a lot of what we call advocacy, or what is technically is lobbying, among the main National Assembly. I spend a lot of time there, or Senate, or in Brussels, and to try to make sure that the connection between the scientists that have the knowledge can be turned into law. Because when you're a politician, you don't really have all the time to read all the papers and all the stuff. So sometimes you don't have, it doesn't come to your mind, the idea. And all what you face is the counter lobby of the industry, of those people that do have a lot of money to represent their interest. So I kind of try to counterbalance this. And the last third is, okay, how we make sure we did not ended up in just having the expert that are doing the law and it's disconnection completely from the people. And I find that hard is art is like a very good door to this democracy system to catch people attention. Because we are freeze. Sometimes we freeze with like, we're overwhelmed by all this information that are coming to us. All this scary information that's coming to us. And one way people sometimes protect is by cutting everything off. Being like, I'm not watching news anymore. Like, I'm done. I don't want to know the truth. It's too hard to hear. And really, that's something that I'm very worried about, because in a society where you start to be when you start to have a society that is tired and silent, when indifference win, this is where autocracy can jump in. This is where fake news can take over the truth sphere and everything. So I really try to find a strategic tool to make sure that the main important topic are still having some kind of interest. And one way that I realized was to activate empathy. And empathy can be activated very, very more powerful way with art. It's just movie making. When you see someone, I don't know, when you're like sitting in the cinema, or when you're reading a book, at first you're not pretending that you need to agree to the character. You're like, okay, it's fiction. I can watch a movie about someone I disagree. And you let yourself go. All your barriers are gone. And I realized that there's so little space like that resist. Also, it's a place where you don't have your phone. You don't have distraction. You are like saying, okay, I commit myself for an hour to this film or for an hour to that book. And this is very, very, very few places like that where we have long time, where we are giving a chance to other people's opinion, where we activate our own empathy. And I was like, okay, this is such a precious place of resistance. And so this is where I started like strategically to use art. It's not like because, I love art and it's like very intelligentsia way of fighting. No. We are doing grassroots activism. We're doing advocacy with policymaker. We're doing long time research with researcher, but we are using art as a medium to make sure that all this work can be turned into collectivization in a democratic way.
This way of strategic art that you have, I want to know if this was the impulse for the film that you create and the book also.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was like a commitment to the long term also. But because I'm like, it's such an honor when someone decided to read your book. It's not a small commitment. They take you into the, I don't know, sometimes the bed, the bath, the train. It's like real place when you read, and it's a long time to read a book, right? It takes you a couple of hours, sometimes be more than that. So it's not like just watching a video and then just zap to the next one. So I was like, wow, this is and especially with a movie as well, sometimes you haven't paid to see it. So I was like, okay, if I'm doing something, I have to make sure it's like very, very good. And then I've double fact checked everything. And then, because I know people offer me like the time, and so I have to honor this. So that was like a big level of exigence, as we would say in French. But I loved it. I mean, it was so much work, but I really appreciate the way that with the movie, what we've been doing is also, it was an excuse to use my face to share other people's story. So we showed people of scientists that were working in Iceland in the biggest glacier of Europe. And then Vanessa is in our movie, actually, with other Ugandan activists. And then we show stories of Belgium victim of flooding. So yeah, it was just a way to show what is the effect today of climate change and how people are fighting back. Saying it's not something that is going to happen tomorrow. It's not something that is really far away from us. This is happening here and now. This is our responsibility to fight against that.
You were saying that there are a lot of people that decide not to consume more information because they feel overwhelmed, and the fear make them burn out. This information that it's necessary to visibilize different social issues and nature facts that we have nowadays, it's really important, but at the same time, there is a rising in anxiety. There is a term nowadays of eco-anxiety. So I want to know, what is the impact of the climate change, the climate crisis in mental health, especially for young generations that nowadays are like the awareness generation?
So I'm fascinated by this question. I guess we need to be very careful on this. I'm very much worried on how social, climate anxiety is a real thing. I'm not saying that people are not suffering from this. This is for sure a fact. I just wonder to what extent is like a normal and healthy reaction to something that is actually scary, and I will be more worried about the people that do not have anxiety out of it. I think that's way more scary and dangerous. As a population, we should be more scared of this. You know, it's like when a tsunami coming to you and then some people are like, oh my God, freaking out and like start running and start acting. And then we'll be like the other people still sitting in the terrace, like in the coffee, while the tsunami is coming. And they will be like, oh, why are those people are so stressed? We should make them do yoga. And I'm like, no, you should run too. That's the difference. You should run too. So I guess it's a very good sign of what's happening and a sign of awareness. Also, I do believe that why I'm saying this is also because there has been some fossil fuel group that start like financing this kind of mental health environmental group, saying, you know, like we would advocate you to like cut off the news, take a step back from activism because you're gonna burn out, and so just make sure that you don't get too much involved, and because that's scary, so you should first focus on your own well-being and health. But as I know, because you work a lot on this, as you know more than I do, that mental health is a political question. We are not just feeling depressed because we're feeling depressed. Like there's also the world that we live in that gives us so much pressure outside, especially the system that we live in right now. So I guess it can be very insulting for me to have those very wealthy kids that are like, oh, I'm gonna cut off the news, while people are actually dying in many countries around the world because of a climate change that they did not even create it. You know, this is where I was always talking about justice. Because if you just take Africa as a continent, in the past, like they're responsible of what we call like historical emission. They're responsible for less than 4% of the world's historical emission, right? And they are the one in front line of the threat of like the flooding, of like all of the climate disaster that are happening. They're like one of the continent that is the more facing the frontline effect of it, of something that they haven't created. So it's like a double injustice. So it's always hard to me to complain about the mental health and activism. That's a topic. I don't want to undermine what people feel. I'm just trying to say this is true. This is something we need to address. And one way of addressing that, actually for me it's smart, is by action, saying that okay, other people are suffering a lot also. So what I'm actually facing right now is empathy, and it's a good thing, a good sign. And one way to feel better is by action. When you start acting about something, it completely change. And one last example was that when I was in class here, so it was a bit hectic at the time, but we were trying to campaign on the first law in the world to actually ban forever chemical, which is a massive topic. And that gives people a lot of sickness and everything, like cancer, and it's everywhere. Everyone is contaminated. Like you must be contaminated. As like everyone, we test like a lot of people from different countries, and they all have forever chemical in them. At first, people were like, "Don't talk too much about that," because it's like so scary. Like, or make a joke or try to make it positive. I was like, no. If you go to the doctor, if I go to the doctor, I don't know about you, but I want the doctor to tell me the truth. I want the doctor to tell me, well, Camille, I'm sorry. Bad news here. This is what you got. And then I can decide for my own body what cure I want to do with the second effect or not. If I want to, like, I can decide, I'm sovereign on my own body, but at least I need information on my table. And so I was like, people need information. We should not treat them as kids. I think that scares me when this happens. So I was like, okay, I want us to tell them the truth. And after we can organize. And this is what happened. Then people was like, oh my God, so scary. Why never, like anyone has told us before that massive thing? And so after it was like, wait, this is happening, but this is what we can do. And our policy maker can do to stop this from happening. And so suddenly like the French society started like teaming all together, and it was like a huge social movement to ban forever chemical. And this is how within like a few months we completely managed to pass the most ambitious law in the world. Not because we're exceptional, but because like we team like the expert and the scientists, like they were telling actually the truth, and we turned this into collective action. And this is where actual change happened, and people were like, oh my God, I'm feeling empowered, because I guess like the climate anxiety, and I'm gonna finish by that, but the climate anxiety doesn't really come only from the fact that climate change is scary, but more like, oh my God, there's this huge wave coming out of me, and like inside me, and I can't do anything about it. Like it's the feeling of being powerless that is worse than everything else. So when you give a solution to what happened, then it's good. You just turn your anger and your sadness into into action, and that changed everything.
Wow, there is something related to what you were saying, that we feel that climate change, it's something external, no? And we are like, okay, I am follow these accounts, or I turn off the TV. Okay, this is nothing that, and also this belief that we are so little to do something, and that the only people that can do something are the people that are in the decision making positions, that obviously that we need them, and we need different actors around the society, but as is a systemical issue, for sure we need people to contribute from their places. So I want to know, like, how to make people to reduce this feeling so that they can act, and also the role of this collective action, no? The role of communities. Why it's so important to be together?
That changed everything. No one ever can do anything alone. This is my biggest takeaway from years of climate activism. You have people that, you have like public faces, but they come and goes. And just a role. It's an important one. It's not an easy one. You're also facing all the criticism and all the threats. But it's not the only one at all. What I'm doing right now is like the privilege of being able to take a step back and pass the mic. And I came here to Oxford and I was like, yeah. And people were like, oh my God, you're going to like stop being on like, you're like a media voice, like a political voice for a country. What are you going to do? Like, I was like, wait, no worries. There's plenty of people that can do this with like different angle than mine, as least as much, as least as good as what I was doing. And I was like, I'm just passing them the mic. And also, so that I can also focus more on take a step back and take the time to think, read, reflect on what's happened. Because otherwise you're trapped into this, you're trapped. Like you're just trapped and then you only start reacting. And I'm very, very concerned about this. I'm very worried about this, because like what is great is then, Trump is saying something, Elon Musk is saying something, and then it's like, who will get the better tweet out of it? Who will make the better meme out of it? Who will have like the best analyst opinion paper out of it? And then just reaction, and then you never create anything anymore, and they win. And this is a strategy that they have been having, like the communication advisory of Trump actually even speak about that publicly. It was like, yeah, it's like, you create direction out of people. You scare them out by one news crazier than the other all the time. So the media always talk about this crazy thing they're doing, but they never actually talk anymore about the important thing that's happening and the counter story we can do. So I always, since the beginning, I was lucky enough to have very good friend, and also my friend and my family that comes from a place outside the media. Like I didn't add any phone on either internet when I grew up until very late. So I was like very grounded into mountain society, I would say. And so that really helps me to take a step back and realize that we really need, I do believe that if we want to win this cultural battle also, we need some time to just disappear and don't get trapped, and then talk only when we have really something important to say. And this is what I've been doing the past years, and that's allowed me to have time to reflect. And I would advise this to policymakers as well, honestly, to stop reacting all the time, but just start like organizing and do the grassroots and do the science-based. It takes time to understand complex issue. I was working on this forever chemical stuff. It takes me like so much time to be backed up by the best scientist that works on that in the world. And I remember I have like group chat with some of them, and I just keep like asking, oh, I understand, that means this. I was like, no, absolutely not. And I was like, fuck, what do you mean about this? And then I was like, oh, I think we could talk about this way. And they're like, no, that would be very, very false. I was like, oh my God, I get it. And it takes like super long. But if you do this work, then you are pretty sure that you're gonna be, it gives you the legitimacy to be credible in public that disagree with you at first. And that's a key thing if we want to build coalition, right? If we want to make sure that if we want to pass a law, I can't only count on climate activists in France. I can't only count on like the green and the lefty of the society. No, I do need to convince other people that hate what I'm doing, that disagree so strongly with me. But if I'm so back that I have already prepared in my mind all what they're gonna counter argument, then I'm pretty safe. And then I'm like, okay, I know what are they gonna answer. And so in the Forever Chemical, when we're working, I was lucky that the guy that discovered all this scandal is actually from the US, Robert Bilot. He's a lawyer. And before we even went public about this, he was telling us, okay, this is what the industry is going to tell you. They're gonna try to be like blow up the line with like this particle, but not this molecule, whatever. So you have to speak about Forever Chemical as a family and like not one by one. Do not enter this debate. And they're gonna find this way. Everything he said happened this exact same way in France 20 years after that what happened in the US. And because we were ready, they had no chance but to follow. The same happened with Ipsy Mining. We knew exactly what the industry was going to say, how to make sure it's not going to backfire. You know, they were about to say, yeah, but there's nothing. It's like, oh, if you don't take the mineral into the deep sea, then it's going to be children in Congo. I was like, no. Precisely because this, you can invest that money to recycle those minerals that are actually very good at recycling minerals. Like we have the capacity to do so. So if you invest this money there, you don't need any more mineral to get out of the soil. So all of this was because of preparation, and that requires time, and you can't do this alone. So this is why community is key, is really key, because the people we're facing, the people we're fighting against have so much more money. One last thing, one example, on Forever Chemical, the main company spent a year only 34 million euro on lobbying. We are 5 people in my team. Wow, you know, if I'm not backed by science, by the top scientists, and if I don't know my topic like really like heart by heart, I'm done within a week. Like they win so easily.
There's something related with community and what you were saying, okay, how to like open conversation with people that don't agree with me, that nowadays social media give us a tool to speak to a community, to create community, to promote collective action. But also there is something that it's difficult to break the algorithm and to talk to people that are like don't believe the same things that I believe, you know, people that are not aware, they are not consciousness about climate change or other, I don't know, gender inequality. There are many examples. So I want to know, how do you think that we can use social media to try to get to new people, and also how we can build from like online activism to action in the real world? We know that the real world is everything nowadays, but it's something, you know, it's easier to stay with the cell phone, post something, rather than to go to the street or whatever.
I think the way I've been doing this and try to manage this is social media is one of like, it's like, actually I don't really spend that much time on it because I'm not the one like posting and so on, because then I get too addicted. So I was like, guys, deal with it. It's more like, it's a tool for me. And it's also something, I don't know if they're going to make sense in English, but I'm trying to, I never really listen to the strategy of social media. Like, for instance, I don't post that much. Like, I never post anything about my private life. And I never use like, oh, you have to post this hour, this hashtag, whatever. I am still like so much of a boomer of this. Like, I don't know those rules. Because for one actual reason is that I do believe that people are not stupid and that people can care. And when I started, people were like, there is no way, Camille, that people gonna stay in a video when you speak about the IPCC report for 20 minutes, just you like talking in the camera. They were like, there's no way. You have to be like 1 minute, otherwise people gonna skip. And someone was like, well, I can't talk to you about the IPCC report in 1 minute. It's like, it's not possible. There's some depths of it. I'm sorry, but we need these depths. And that was like, I really don't believe that people are too dumb to understand. And this comes from a very like way of looking down to people that our elite sometimes have, and that really worries me, because I'm like, who in your friend you think is dumb? Is there people around you, like your family, your friend, that you think they're too dumb to understand a complex issue? Never. Like, I don't. and people that maybe have not make any study. My two parents don't make any kind of study, and they can understand everything just in the way we speak, in the word we choose, if we just take the time to explain this depth. And so that was my starting point. And so when I first started to use social media as adding tool to all the advocacy work, policy work, and grassroots activism I was doing, it was just starting from this. I was like, okay, I want to spend 20 minutes to talk about the IPCC report. I don't want to see this, the news that I see is like just like one short article, one stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do it and try to be this link between actual scientists and the public. And it works. And it works really well. So, because people were like, okay, we're going to resist this algorithm thing. And yeah, we're going to share this 20-minute video about your IPCC report. And, so then I started using social media not only as a way to inform people, but also as adding pressure to our campaign. And so we've been doing a lot of this, like putting public pressure on like big scandals, for instance. On deep sea mining, we had a lot of fun into this. Like we had a lot of activism where we were like massively exposing the truth as one company, the metal company. It's a Canadian company that were doing hardcore lobbyism at the UN level. And it was like there was an article by the New York Times, that made like an entire investigation to show how corrupt they were trying literally to corrupt the UN, which was like crazy. And this very niche article, amazing journalists, love him, but very niche article about something nobody knows about, and we just like try to expose them with humor. We used a lot of humor, because like what they do is so crazy that sometimes like, oh my god, it can't be true. We should make fun of it. And then we made like a Zoom when we asked people, like they were having a board meeting with the investor. They were pitching the idea of deep sea mining to investors, and we find the link to it. And so we just put it on social media saying like, hey, join that link, and just like prank them. So we were entering the Zoom, and then we were just like spreading the science report about saying how bad deep sea mining was. And so we could see the face of the investor on the Zoom being like, what is this? What are all those people coming? What is this bad thing? And to an extent, what the CEO of that company just messaged me saying like, can we talk? Like, please. Like, he literally tell me, I'm a Libra. I'm always ready to talk. And I was like, wow, this is so scary. So it was really funny. And so I guess we use it to prank. We use it to get the social pressure out of it. So I would definitely think, and I have really a lot of proof to this, that when people are like, oh, if I just share something, if I just tag a minister, it won't change. Trust me, it did. Like when Macron announced deep sea mining, I was like, for literally months, we've been putting pressure on it. It was in favor of deep sea mining, and there were no really other country that was against at that time. And when he announced it, he answered my tweet. So he announced to the friends in the world, because I did that tweet, and I was like, he was going to the COP, and I was like, Macron, stop deep sea mining, we count on you. Obviously, I didn't think that he would read my tweet. I was like, we count on you. And then literally my phone started ringing, and I was like, what is this? And there was like the minister at that time that was like calling me like 4 times, and I was like, what's happening? And it was like, open your Twitter. And I was like, what is this? And then I opened, and literally Macron was like, you can count on me. And then he put a video where he announced about joining deep sea mining. And it was not because he wanted to please me as Camille. He doesn't care at all about who I am like personally. It's just because he was like, oh, we gathered together so many people that keeps the pressure, that he wanted to answer us, So this is where I think it's a good use of social media. I'm not saying my life on social media. I'm like using this as a platform where we can together put like collective pressure. And that works so well, like honestly, so well. Just side notes, obviously we're talking about democratic country. I do have many activist friends that just can't use this at all, because it's controlled by the state, because like there's censorship, because there is still life there. That gives us an extra duty, an extra responsibility to speak when we have this freedom of speech in our own country, right?
Totally. And also there is something power, but I find a lot of contradictions about social media, because like our generation or younger generations are like, we are very aware more than ever about climate crisis, and we can share a lot of content on social media and whatever. But also we are the young, like the generation that more consume. Like we consume fast fashion, we consume tech. I don't know. There are a lot of things. So this power that social media has, for that example was amazing. I can't imagine how did you feel when you received that tweet about, was the president of the country. Like it's crazy how powerful to generate positive impact. But also social media has this, like accelerate the consumption. So
honestly, yeah. I mean, I just think that we need to fight power is power. And it can be seen as contradiction. I just do think that there's way to use better social media. And I think social media also use a lot of like resources, like to build the smartphone and everything, a lot of minerals, a lot of like, it's really bad from an environmental perspective. It's actually awful. I'm just thinking I could also just like give up everything and just go and grow my food somewhere in the countryside of France. I would be very happy, I guess. It won't be that easy and it will be super useful to my community, that's for sure. I just think that what I'm good at now is to be in the power place, be in the nuclear, be where things happen. This is what I want to fight. And so this is what I don't want to give up. And social media is just one way that people can see, but it's like a very tiny way of my work. It's like 10% of my work. But it's a very useful tool. It's just a tool. And we can use the tool. It's a very powerful tool. That's why all these companies are using this tool. But if we use it in the other way, that can also be very powerful. I'm just saying, yeah, I just think it's a place where if we just let our enemy take over the place, then just give up and then nothing happen,
I like what you are saying related of like this isolation, it's easier to go out the system and create your own system, community.
It's hard too, huh? It has its challenges. And I support everything. I think we do need complementarity in the fight. We do need people. I'm always very like a bit confused when people are like, this is the way you should do activism. This is what works. Honestly, I don't know at all. And if someone tell you he knows, I think he gonna change his mind in a couple of years because you're gonna find a new way of fighting. And so I do guess like, we are destroying an ecosystem. So we need to fight back as an ecosystem. And this is where I say it's very much a collective fight because I'm never alone. Sometimes I team up with scientists that are on the lab that would aid to talk to any policymaker, that would aid to do an interview. What they do and what they are good at and what they love is like doing science. And so they take time explaining me the science and they're so excited about this. And for me, it's so precious. And then you have people that fight back more grassroots activism that I do a lot also when I'm in France, where we just like try to block stuff, where we just like do civil disobedience. And this is a very, very powerful tool. But we team up this with, every time we had a fight, I team up like civil disobedience, grassroots activism, underground movement, like Pacific, also just march, stuff like that, with political strategic lobbyism that is very key to what I'm doing, because I think it's a key thing that is we don't really spend a lot of time here as activists, and I think we should focus really into this. And then social media awareness, and then media coverage, and then movie, and then everything. We just need to be as a wave. We need to like make sure that they can't avoid us, to take every single spot that is left free. We need to be there and to occupy every single space. So there's not one way to do it. Like there's your way, there's my way, there's the way that there's as many ways as there's people,
I like what you are saying related of the different ways, also to recognize in which we are good at.
Yeah.
Because that is really important. And also to collaborate and not like nowadays, not only in climate change, but in different aspects of activism, it's like the finger there, like you are doing good, you not. You have to say this, not this.
Exactly.
Now,
yeah.
And instead of like that wave, it came to my mind like an image of that way. It's more fragmented, and I think that's like the fragmentation divide us, fragmented us, and also like the power of the act. Yeah. So yeah, There are so many things to do related with that, and I really like your vision. I want to do a zoom, because if we talk about climate change, we can talk about a lot of industries, but you know that I work in Bellamente and we work related with the beauty industry and the fashion industry. In my second book, I wrote one chapter that the name is Hot Sale, Hot Planet. And I want to open conversation about how the beauty industry and how the fast fashion is impacting nowadays and it's fueling the climate change.
Completely. So first, like, have you worked also about cosmetic a little? Are you working with cosmetic makeup?
Yeah,
you're working also on that a little, right?
Cosmetic is like part of the fashion industry and beauty industry.
Okay. Yeah. Because then forever chemical is a massive thing in this industry that nobody really speak about. So we need voice in Argentina to fight there. So yeah, I really much invite everyone to just look it up. PFAS it's called. Because like cosmetic is one of and textile, actually both. It's like textile and cosmetic all together make up all the two biggest industry that use this forever chemical and that we put directly on our skin. And that literally kills us slowly. So it's crazy. And it's only banned in France and maybe hopefully in a few other countries now. But it's a massive fight to go ahead. And then obviously in the textile industries, it's insane, because I realized how powerful the lobby is. We try to pass a law in France that actually passed technically in the National Assembly and then the Senate. And then they're trying to backfire again. Industry like Shein, I always say pronounced this way, that are really so powerful on the way they're trying to backfire, because there's so much interest about this. But I think something that is also scary that we speak about a little less is that it creates another market, like the second-hand market. Sounds like a very good and nice idea. Like, okay, I'm just going to do second-hand, like vintage. I don't know if vintage is a big thing in Argentina.
No, also, in Argentina, no. But now that we are in the UK, I explore.
You must have like a similar kind of app, I guess.
Not yet.
Okay, you're lucky.
No, yeah.
Because you're lucky because like even the second-hand shop, it's like I buy most of my clothes there and I think it's like really good and great. But the actual answer is just consume less of all of this, because then it creates like another problem is that people are like, oh, I'm buying second-hand, so that's okay. And so they just buy clothes and then they sell secondhand and then they get addicted to that secondhand app. And so to an extent where it like completely boomed the market again of new clothes, because people buy new clothes and then put it in secondhand market, get like they wear it one time and then they put it in secondhand market and people are like, oh, I don't have limitation to my consumption because secondhand, so I'm safe. Which is not true. And so I guess like the key issue is to really reduce as much as we can our consumption of clothes, because it creates, like we could talk about this for ages, but like the resource it requires, the water pressure, like we need so much water to produce clothes. It's insane. And sometimes it's conflict of use. It's mean that we prevent people from having access to drinkable water. Because of the textile industry, the chemical that they pollute, not only for our chemical, but just the chemical to give our clothes the color, like this color red or the color blue, and then goes into the rivers and completely destroy the aquatic ecosystem there. And that has impacted a lot of local community that were living alongside this river that now get cancer and everything. So it's insane. It's insane. Like, I mean, also, obviously, food comes from plastic. We don't really think about that often, but it's literally a product of the oil industry. They are so happy about the textile industry because, like, there's a lot of plastic in our clothes, and every time we wash it, the little tiny particle of plastic enter the water system, and it ended up in our own body. For instance, we have the amount of one credit card of plastic that we eat every single week. So every week you eat like a credit card amount of plastic in your body. And I was saying this the other day that like just saying that they find plastic in the brain of people for the first time. We're the first generation where we can see plastic in the brain of young dead people. They have no idea how it's gonna impact health. But our doubt is the good news.
I didn't know that. I was like impressed. Wow. So many things that I'm thinking related with where you were saying. It's time to finish. But before, I want to ask you if you could leave one message to someone who feels like really small to face or contribute to this crisis.
Sure. So to end up in a more powerful note, I wouldn't say positive, because I think positivity comes from action. And that may be my message, is that we deserve to know the truth. We deserve to know what's happening. That climate change isn't something for later or for other. One number, just talking about France, is pretty much the same in every European country. There's 50,000 people that died every single year of air pollution. It's the same number as the COVID-19. So at the peak of the COVID-19, it was the exact same number of deaths that is happening every single year about air pollution. No one really care about that much. Everyone was freaking out. We suddenly closed the airport. People couldn't leave their house and everything when the COVID was here. And I'm happy they did. Like, great, thank you. It was a pandemic and we had to take action. But then it's for me, it's always a bit like surprising to see how little our government respond to a crisis that is creating as much death. And I'm only talking about air pollution, but then there's all of the other environmental question. So it's something that is very much happening right now. The only problem is the link are not made. But this is not a hobby. This is not something that is going to happen to future generation. Literally, life are at risk right now about the climate emergency. And so you're never too small to fight, and it's never too late to be on the good side of history. So I very, very recommend everyone to join collective action. And as we were saying, there is not only one good way. If you're afraid of being in a huge crowd and go on the street because you really feel uncomfortable with that, because you are afraid of facing police racism, because for many, many reasons, maybe you're an undocumented person and you're like, I can't take the risk of going on civil disobedience protest. There's many ways people can get engaged. And we need everyone on board, because this is the only good tool that we have, is that the people we are facing have all the power, all the money, all the connection. We only have truth with us, science behind us, and the number. So we are the people that are electing the people that are in power right now and that are not taking the action. So we actually have more power than what we think. And one last would be to be very careful on using the idea of climate inaction. We are not in the world of climate inaction. We're in the world where deliberate action are taken to prevent a massive transition from happening. And the way to fight against this is by teaming up all together and decided it's enough.
Thank you for your time, and I love this episode. I hope that a lot of people start taking action after listening to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Gracias.
Gracias.